Hi everyone, it's Wellness Wednesday. I hope you're well where you are. In North Queensland we seem to have a lot of hay fever going around at the moment. I think spring is well and truly sprung and there's a lot of pollens in the air. So even myself this morning I was feeling a bit hay feverish. My eldest has had a lot of trouble breathing recently, especially at night. So I was obviously giving her some medication to help her, but also using essential oils and Googling acupressure points for hay fever, which I'm grateful to say I found a few. So I've also been trialing those, and last night they seemed to work really well. So also some hot tip for yourself to Google acupressure points for hay fever. You might find a little bit of natural relief as opposed to having to take medication all the time, which is not fun. And I know personally how debilitating hay fever can be, because for the 16 years I lived in the UK, I had terrible hay fever, and it felt like you have a brick smashed into your face when you wake up every morning, and it takes a long time to relieve the pressure around your nasal area, your forehead, your eyes, etc. Not to mention the amount of tissues that you go through. So do take care if you have hay fever. There's a few natural things you can do to help alleviate it. So this week recovered physically well from my marathon. Feel good physically, but I've been a bit reluctant to get out of bed the last 2 days to go for my jogs. I put that down to a couple of things. Well, it's that time of the month for me, so you know when women have that time of the month, their energy levels dip slightly. But also I think that if you've ever run a marathon before, or indeed done any kind of endurance event, the after effects is not just physically tiring, but emotionally draining. So you give a lot of emotional energy to get up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. and go training. Then you give a lot emotionally to participate in the event, which is exciting, but also a bit daunting and overwhelming, and you have to keep your emotions in check. But also if you're running for a cause, such as I am with my Run for Ukraine challenge, you're obviously carrying the emotions of what you're trying to achieve for your friends, as well as fundraising, and you want people to be proud of you ultimately. So it is kind of good to take some time to reflect on that post-event. So this week is my week for reflection. Last week was far too busy for a week of reflection because it was non-stop, but on Friday morning I got to go jogging with Grace Tame, and that was really, really special. And if you don't know who Grace Tame is, she was Australian of the Year in 2021. She's a pioneer for changing the laws in Australia around childhood sexual abuse victims. She's an amazing speaker. She has a foundation called the Grace Tame Foundation. So I got to spend some quality time with her on Friday morning, as well as her fiance after our run. I got some one-to-one time with Max, drove him to the gym so he could do his legs workout, and we chatted a lot about the pressure that comes when you share your story, and then a lot of people come and open up to you and share their stories. So essentially they feel inspired to come out with their story, having witnessed or been privileged to hear you share your story. So that's really a special gift, that firstly to be able to share your story, secondly to be able to hear the stories of others, and to empathize, and to give them the strength and the power to acknowledge the impact of those stories. So that's really special. And I mentioned this last week, but when I was in Melbourne I picked up a book. Alexandra Andre was promoting her book at the Marathon running festival in the Runners Expo. It's called The Power of Possibility. It's a journey of inspiration and courage. So Alexandra Andre, I consider a relatively normal everyday person working away at an office in Melbourne. Quite liked running at school, didn't attend the Olympics or anything like that, but then started training for a few marathons. Wasn't so successful at getting to the start line because she managed to get injured most of the times that she wanted to get to the start line. So But in the end, she set herself an even bigger goal, which was to complete the Melbourne Ironman in 2015. So Melbourne Ironman, an Ironman event is much, much longer than a marathon. You do have to do a marathon, but that's the third event. I think you do like a 5K swim, 180 kilometer bike ride, ocean swimming, 180k bike ride on the open road, and then you do a marathon at the end, 42.2 kilometer run. So she trained for 10 months, participated in the Ironman event, and completed it in 12 hours, 12 minutes and 12 seconds. And she did the Ironman for her friend Mads, who died of blood cancer that same year. She managed to raise a lot of money and draw attention to the fact that the power of possibility is within us. But what this book does really well for me, which other books I've read haven't touched on just quite as well, is the power of the mind-body connection, because we can all be prone to injuries and illnesses throughout our life, and it's how we manage them on a mental, emotional and physical level. So it's not to say that when we have a physical injury we can't accept treatment for it, but it's also about creating the right conditions for our body to heal and repair itself emotionally as well as physically. So I'll just give you a quick for instance for myself. 2 years ago I had a really sore shoulder. It was like a frozen shoulder. I have a lot of shoulder neck issues from a whiplash I sustained in a head-on car collision about 20 years ago. And more recently a rear ender, so in the last 18 months. So those front-on car collisions and rear car collisions, carrying heavy bags around, carrying kids around, breastfeeding, all the rest of it, you never fully recover from those kinds of injuries. So you have to accept them, learn to live with them, and then ultimately find ways to manage them. So obviously I manage them with treatment from professionals. I also manage them through stretching, through nutrition, because I know that food that is high in animal-based products and alcohol and sugary foods cause a lot of inflammation in the body. So I want to limit my intake of those foods that I know cause inflammation, so I can have a more alkaline body. Obviously I know that stress also causes inflammation in my body, so if I'm stressed and tensed I'm going to cause more inflammation in my body. So it's really about understanding the causes of inflammation and trying to minimize those effects on your body. It's also then using natural rubs. So we have arnica cream, we have lavender oil, we have all of these natural anti-inflammatories, turmeric for instance, that we can use to support our body if it's injured or ill. And then it's thinking about the mind-body connection. So with my shoulder, for instance, I would visualize taking off my heavy tortoise shell that I was carrying around on my back, so my heavy backpack, putting it down and feeling like a jellied eel, all loose and floppy and wobbly. And over a few weeks of this visualization process, and I also asked for a sign, because I was spending a lot of money on treatment and not really feeling any relief. So in the end I just kind of said to the universe, give me a sign, what can I do to fix my shoulder? It's really bugging me now, I just want to move on. So in the end I was reading a book written by my friend, and she talked about a shoulder injury at the very last chapter, a shoulder injury that she had and how it was debilitating and she was going to need surgery and everything else, and what she did to overcome that injury. And I thought, this is the sign. So I followed the advice that she gave in the book, and then within a short space of time my shoulder injury resolved itself. But it's also similarly thinking about okay, emotionally what's going on for me right now. So I know emotionally, physically I feel well, but emotionally I feel a bit heavy. So if I'm pushing myself to go for a run at the moment, I'm not going to be doing myself the service. It's not to say that I don't want to go running, because I'm enjoying it, but equally I need to just honor my body and the emotions that are coming up for me right now, which could then ultimately cause injury if I push through them. I've had a pain in my neck the last few weeks, and even when I did my half marathon training event 2 weeks prior to the marathon, I still had a lot of pain in my neck, and I thought, I can't go to Melbourne and run a marathon with this massive pain in my neck. I know that the pain in my neck is caused through the way that I sit and the way that I work and the things that I carry, but also on a emotional level, I have a pain in my neck. There's things going on in my life that were causing me to be a real pain in my neck. So it's about acknowledging all those things that are in my life that are causing me stress and anguish and frustration and manifesting for me physically, and that I've got a pain in the neck. So I need to look at what those things are, think about how they're impacting my ability to concentrate and to sleep well and to run well and to feel relaxed and so on and so forth. So really why I'm sharing this is that it talks about the holistic way in which we can approach our health, rather than just accepting the pain in the neck, having treatment for it. I can find other ways to manage the symptoms, which is tapping into that mind-body connection, the emotional connection around the things that are in my life, and finding ways which I can better support my health and well-being. And this is tapped into beautifully in Alexandra's book, The Power of Possibility, because when she's training for an Ironman, obviously she does a lot of test events, training events leading up to the actual marathon, and she suffers a whole range of injuries and illnesses and things that come up for her during those events, and obviously she doesn't want to carry those into the big race with her, so she has to find ways to overcome them. So she taps into her mind-body connection, starts listening to her body. She visits a kinesiologist, so she starts releasing blocked energy, blocked emotions in her body. And it shows you through this story and through my own story how we can use that power of, kinesiology, blocked energy, trapped emotions to be much more freer in our life. I know that when I got to Melbourne, that pain in my neck was not there. I didn't feel it at all in the 42.2 Ks that I ran. I felt free, I felt relaxed, I felt comfortable. And I've come back home after carrying my backpack around Melbourne for 3 days following the marathon, knowing that I need to kind of take care of it a little bit more again. So I'm doing that. So really this book is one of the best I've read for showing how kinesiology and the power of the mind-body connection works to help us kind of move through obstacles and challenges in our physical body. And that's the whole premise of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work too, when he talks about the mind-body connection. So it's really, really powerful, and I thought I wanted to touch on that today. I also want to introduce another book from my friend Crystal Leonardi. It's called My Brother Sebastian, Explaining Cancer to Kids. So Crystal's got a couple of books, and I've met her this year at a few events that we've attended. She's a lovely lady. She's based at Mareeba in North Queensland, and this book is really about helping siblings understand cancer journeys for their brothers and sisters, obviously. And it talks about Crystal's son, Sebastian, who has cancer. So it's really powerful, I think, in the way that stories can be used to help people understand obstacles, challenges. Grace Tame on Friday during the talk at the lunch spoke about the power of storytelling, and through sharing her story. Her book is #2 in Australia right now, so it might be worth checking that out as well. I'm sure it's an exciting and inspiring read. But why I love books and why I love sharing books of other authors and talking about books is because I love the fact that books connect people. Books enable people to overcome a lot of obstacles in their life and to feel more connected. And we lose that sense of connection often because we're so focused on our day-to-day world and our day-to-day doing. So that's really special. So I'm grateful to have met both those inspirational women this year and to be able to share their work. Crystal Leonardi and Alexandra Andre. You can check them out. Their books are available anywhere you buy books. Speaking of books, speaking of running, so I'm very grateful to Outer Limits from Townsville, who last night gifted me a free entry into the final trail run, which is the Paluma Trail Run on the 30th of October, just a few short weeks away. I'm going to participate in the 10K event as part of my Run for Ukraine challenge. It's very nice to be gifted free entry to events because it allows me to put the money I would spend on the entry fee to my fundraising. So I'm super grateful for that. And also I absolutely love Paluma. It's one of the most inspiring places I've been. I went there last year wrote a book actually with a group of kids from schools all around North Queensland. It's called Stories from the Rainforest and Beyond. It's also available wherever you buy books online. We spent a week in the rainforest with children from different schools, and we participated in a range of kind of lived natural experiences, as well as talking about storytelling, bringing our stories to life, conveying emotions, how to articulate our stories in pictures as well as words. We talked about the hero's journey, overcoming obstacles, tapping into resources around us, bringing things to life, bringing characters to life. It was really, really empowering week that we spent at Paluma, but being in the rainforest is just such a healing experience. So I was delighted to participate in this book exactly a year ago now, and everyone that picks it up is really fascinated because each child got to write one story, which is part of the book. So on every page there is a different story by a different author with a corresponding illustration that they drew. And myself and Matt B. Lewis, obviously the co-publishers of this book. So it's super cool how children can spend a few days away in nature, disconnected, have a more analog experience nature, connect with other people, and come away more confident. I certainly saw some real growth in some of the young people that participated. So that's really cool. And this week, hopefully tomorrow, I will be finishing the layout of my new children's book, which is a collaboration with my eldest daughter. She is the illustrator. I am the author, but it's essentially her story. And this is a story about a little girl who moves from London to Townsville. It's helping to bring into words her experience of relocating and moving countries at a young age, what she left behind, what she gained, what she's learned along the way. But the book touches on multiculturalism, it touches on geography, topography, time zones, all those other little things that young people don't necessarily understand if they haven't kind of visited the north and southern hemisphere, or they have people who live abroad. So it's a really interesting book, but what I wanted to do with this particular book is to kind of help parents see that they can also guide their child to share their stories, to write their stories, and to overcome their feelings of sadness or frustration or leaving things behind, and experience growth, and appreciating new opportunities and experiences that come every time we have a major change in our life. So I'm hopeful that other parents will be able to draw inspiration from the story as well, and children will be able to draw inspiration from the fact that they too can use their stories to create meaningful work for people. So that's the main premise of the book. And I'm hoping that it will be finished this week and printed in the coming 2 weeks, and we can start sharing it with people. So yes, that's been a very special few days. So honoring my emotional health this week, thinking about what I gained as a result of the marathon, also how we can continue to support our friends. You will have seen a whole range of new bombings in Ukraine over the last 2 days. It's been immensely worrying for me, obviously, and I've been talking to my friends about their safety and well-being during this time, and so it still highlights to me that I need to continue on the path that I'm on. So as painful and as challenging as it is, I will continue to do that. So have a great week where you are. I have launched my podcast last week, my birthday. Only 10 days. Actually, yes, it's 2 weeks since my birthday. So much has happened in the last 2 weeks. So it's on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you love to listen to your podcasts. If you just type in Chrissy Regan, the Wellness Poet. The podcast is titled Everyday Wellness with Chrissy Regan, and essentially to share stories and messages around a whole range of holistic health topics, well-being topics, sharing books, talking to experts, episode I'll be releasing in the next few days focuses around sexual health and well-being, which is super important. So yeah, I love the podcast because it enables me to kind of share content very broadly, not just on YouTube and on Facebook, but on audio platforms around the world. So I'm super grateful to have that opportunity, and I'm enjoying the process, and I thank you for subscribing and sharing it. So take care of yourself where you are, and I will see you again real soon, or talk to you again real soon. All right, bye.